What are the steps for healing diastasis recti? This is going to be a very brief overview, more details in other videos because that can get long. But here's what we need to do when we have diastasis recti. And remember, you're not really needing to focus on healing a diastasis until you can really truly check. And that's probably around 10 to 12 weeks postpartum. Before that, we're just focused on breath work, gentle healing, and recovery from birth and pregnancy, right? So that's when you check, not 3 days after you give birth. It's gonna be there 3 days after you give birth, okay? Even at your 6-week appointment, there's a high chance that it's still gonna be there. All right, so first thing that you want to do when healing a diastasis or diastasis, however you wanna say it, is drop in, connect to your optimal breath. This makes a huge difference. I know we can write off breathing as some kind of woo-woo waste of time, but it makes a huge difference. It lays the foundation for your core function and everything you do. So what is our optimal breath? You can get way more in-depth details in another video, but this is gonna be a quick overview. We wanna focus on that breath coming down. So hand on the ribs, hand on the low belly or pelvic floor. Feel a gentle expansion of that 360 breath, 360 degrees around the torso and in the pelvic floor. Gentle expansion with that inhale, relaxed, normal exhale. So connect to that breath, focus on that first. Once you get that down, you want to connect to the different pieces of the deep core and bring them all together. So once you've got that breath, that diaphragm is working well, you've got that breath going, you want to connect to the TVA and the pelvic floor. So lots of details, again, in other videos on how to specifically connect to those two pieces, troubleshooting, things to help. But today we're going quickly through this as a nice overview. So connect to that pelvic floor. Remember, the pelvic floor is a diamond down there from sits bone to sits bone, pubic bone to tailbone. You want to be able to pull together and lift that pelvic floor right into a wrapping of that TVA. So that's what's happening on your exhale. And we want to get those pieces working together. So diaphragm, inhale, you inhale, it contracts down, everything relaxes and gently expands. Exhale. When you're actively exhaling, you connect to that pelvic floor, it pulls together and up, TVA wraps, diaphragm contracts up, and the pressure goes up in that space created by the diaphragm pulling up. So that's very brief. It may be confusing. If it is, go to the other videos and please, 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 I explain all of that in more detail individually where we have a few minutes. So we want to first connect to your breath. Second, connect individually to those core pieces and then make sure that they are working functionally together. And third, you want to progressively overload your core. Now, what's this gonna look like? At first, very early postpartum, it can look like things like heel slides. So this is very common. I know this is like the thing that's always safe for diastasis, but eventually you've got to move past it. And the important thing about any exercise that you do when you are focusing on healing diastasis, whether it's heel slides, is connecting to the core within the movement. So even in these heel slides, you would be exhaling, connecting to the core. You can inhale when you're out. Exhale to help move that leg back in. So when you're exhaling, you're connecting to that core. So inhale, exhale, connect and move the leg. Inhale, exhale, connect and move the leg. So that's very important to really remember that we are doing these movements not just for the sake of doing them. We're doing these movements to work that core, to create function, create strength, and challenge that tissue so that it can heal. That is the key thing when you start to progressively overload. And I say progressively overload. I've probably said that 2 or 3 times now. It's important. We cannot stay at heel slides forever if you want your core to gain strength and gain more and more function. So I think that's something that really gets lost a lot on social media and online. You have to keep going. So you start with the heel slides, you move to something that's more challenging next, and you need to work different positions. So you can work on your back, you can work on your side, you can work quadruped exercises where you maybe start on your forearms, you inhale, exhale, connect to core, and use it to lift and stabilize. And you keep going from there. You're doing all of these more rehab, connection, stability type exercises, and then you're eventually progressing into more traditional ab exercises much later. I would get into more of this core rehab and then bring your full body stuff in and then focus more when you feel really good about that core on other more traditional ab stuff. But this is a brief overview. So those are the three things. Ready? Breath, getting that core, each individual piece and all of it working together, that core function, and then starting your core rehab, progressively overloading from there and making sure that the key thing is you're using the core well within those rehab exercises.